Hey, Mind, Body, Spirit Summit community. I'm Courtney Riley. I'm one of the co-hosts for the virtual summit, and I'm super excited to introduce you to the powerful and wise founder of Strong Body Love, Ashley Burnett. Ashley is a women's leadership coach, a dance educator, yogini, retreat facilitator, and ritualist. Ashley is committed to helping change-making entrepreneurs and leaders strengthen their leadership, build visibility, and embody their mission in life with confidence. Ashley has been teaching, leading groups and running her business for 15 years. She has facilitated hundreds of classes, workshops, events, and retreats, and led thousands around the globe in expanding their businesses and embodying their leadership. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband David and has the honor of running her retreats at her own studio space on 22 acres of expansive land in Sonoma County, where I have been, and I have to tell you, it's awesome. My own career and my own work has grown leaps and bounds thanks to having worked with Ashley this last year in her year-long program called Uninhibited Leadership Program. Ashley, you've so helped me with clarifying my mission and my passion and connecting to ritual. Both my business and my personal brand are at a new level because of working with you this year. So thank you so much. And I'm just so excited to introduce you to the community and have them meet you and just welcome.
Yay!
Yay!
Thank you so much, Court.
Yay!
I'm so excited to be here. And hey, everyone, thanks for tuning in for this call. And just really excited to meet all of you as well.
Super cool. So before we dive into the meat of the interview, I would love, Ashley, if you could give the audience a little more info about your background and how you made your way into assisting women with creating positive change through their soul's work. Your background's like super cool, and I just love you to share it.
Yeah, so I'm originally from a small town in Illinois called Quincy, Illinois, and my mom was
Illinois.
my dance teacher. Yeah, what's up, Midwest? So my mom was my dance teacher growing up, and my dad was my theater director, and I was just kind of born into this artistic family, and I went on to major in dance in college and danced professionally for 10 years. And when I was 25, I moved out to California, to San Francisco. And a couple of years later, I was working as a massage therapist at the time and starting to run my own massage therapy practice. And I was also dancing professionally and choreographing and doing things like that. But something was kind of nagging at me a little bit to get from outside of the massage room, not speaking, and just, it was so powerful to do that kind of healing work for 10 years and ran a successful massage therapy practice for that period of time. But something was just calling me to do work outside of that room. And because I had been a teacher already for many years, and also because my mom and her mom were entrepreneurs, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was married to her first husband and was pregnant and gave birth. Her first husband died 2 days before her first child was born, which put her into labor. And he was an optometrist, and she decided in the 40s as a single mother to go put herself into school in Chicago so that she basically could reopen his practice. And she did, and she became one of the first female optometrists in the Chicagoland area. I don't know if this is new information for you, but honestly, that I still get chills when I share that. She was one of the first female optometrists to actually fit people for contact lenses in that area. And, so here she was, like in a community, in a workplace that was also obviously very masculine driven at that point, but also in a profession, like there were no women optometrists at that point. So with that said, and then my mother was also an entrepreneur and was, had a successful dance studio for many years, and now runs a vintage collective shop out here in Danville called the Bloom Space. And she, I think just that lineage paved the path for me to become an entrepreneur and ultimately to work with women entrepreneurs in supporting them in building their businesses and stepping deeper into their leadership and really honing into their power, and to move through the fears that, come up for them as they step forward in larger, and on larger visibility platforms for their life's work. And so truly, I think that background is why I'm here doing what I'm doing. I did have the path kind of paved for me, and I had to move through my own stuff to step into that. But ultimately that's kind of how I got here. And what's cool is that now, it was very compartmentalized in the past, where I was just a dancer over here and I was doing massage over here. And then I started to get into the coaching world, which is another story. And I'll be very brief with it, but basically I was diagnosed with hereditary gallbladder disease when I was 28 and had 7 severe attacks that first year. Was on the table at San Francisco General Hospital to get my gallbladder removed, and at the last moment had a change of heart and said, I can't take this organ out of my body. I want to heal it with diet and lifestyle. And that's what actually brought me into the coaching world. And I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition to become a health coach at first, and then it moved into this business and leadership and kind of women's circle ritual support coaching. And so it kind of morphed from health coaching. But what has happened is that all these elements, all these pieces that really light me up and make me have now come into the work. And you've experienced that firsthand by these kind of multifaceted experiential retreats that we do. We're out here where we are getting into our bodies. We're using coaching elements to move through limiting beliefs. We're working with the land out here on 22 acres of beautiful Sonoma County land. So we're using holistic practices, that self-care practices and other things that come into the work, so that it's all fusing together now. And that's what feels so good. And I love helping my clients to do that too, where they can get clear on how to bring all their unique gifts together to really get the work that they know they're being called to do out into the world, where it feels aligned and it feels in alignment with their purpose, right? So yeah, that's a little background about what I'm doing and how I got here doing what I'm doing.
Well, how would you say that dance and movement inspires and influences your work these days?
Yeah, so that's a great question, So to kind of share what happened was, so I have these gallbladder attacks. I am on the table and I'm like, no, I can't do this. And then I go back to health coaching school. That was a year-long certification. And this was like 6 years ago at this point or something. And I stopped dancing. And I basically stopped moving, and I was like, I have to build my online business now, and there was this it was at that point, the compartmentalization of I can't do both. I have to just focus and put all my eggs into this coaching basket. And a couple of years into that hiatus, I was like, this is not okay. I just feel like I cut a lifeline off of myself. Dance is what truly lights me up. Dance, movement, and using the body, it's what truly lights me up. And I literally wasn't doing anything. I was coaching everyone over the phone. I was on the computer 12 plus hours a day, very overly masculine driven, trying to grow my business at that point. And a couple years into that hiatus, I was like, this is not working. This is not right. You know, I'm also trained in a Hawaiian shamanic lineage called Huna. And what the ancient Hawaiians talk about is becoming pono with oneself. And pono means right. And it doesn't mean to become right, like I'm right and you're wrong, but it means to become congruent or aligned with oneself, right? And so I was not pono. I was not pono with myself.
Right.
I was definitely out of alignment, and things in the business weren't flowing.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, I was going to say, like,
coming up against like this feeling like hitting my head against the glass ceiling or something and not breaking it. Then my husband gets really sick, and we start to. Well, I had actually gotten a download, and this was maybe 3.5 years ago. So it was kind of like, a couple years into that hiatus of like, all right, girl, this is not your path. Like just being on the phone with people. Like you didn't do that. You didn't leave the massage room.
Yeah. To then get into, yeah. But it's so interesting how we do that to ourselves. We'll just like repeat the pattern again until we go, oh, lights on, boom. Yeah.
Totally. So I'm getting a massage because that's like a lot of times when I'm in my body or I'm getting into my body, that's when I get the download, right? Or the clarity. And basically it was like, you need to do a retreat. And so within like 3.5 weeks, I had created this day retreat for people in the city called Replenish. And it was for women entrepreneurs to give back to themselves. Like, all these corporate gigs do these kind of team building days, right? And offsite days. And we don't get that as entrepreneurs. So I wanted to kind of create something like that. And there was movement, and there was dance, and there was journal inquiry, and there was food and creative ritual. And so it was starting, like the whole thing was starting to come together at that point. But then my husband gets really sick with ulcerative colitis, loses 50 pounds in a month. And that was like a really big wake up call of like, we need to get out of the city. And so very soon after that, we get directed and divinely directed to Petaluma, California, which is where we're living now in Sonoma County. And here we are. But and while I've gotten here, so the room I'm sitting in is like 1,000 square foot workshop space where I can dance and I can move. And so dance and movement, what that looks like now is it's truly making sure that I'm moving my body. I'm prioritizing that. It doesn't mean I have to go like take a dance class every day like I used to when I was professionally dancing, but it means like walking around the grass outside barefoot and doing some, opening exercises that I've created here on the land, or doing like a 20-minute dance session here. And then the other thing that happens in a couple of days, I'm holding a retreat for the Solstice Sisterhood group, which is a year-long experience through working with the cycle and the seasons and working with the wheel of the year. So we're gathering on the spring equinox, and we do this whole strong body love movement experience that I've created, and get people into opening up their chakras and releasing the energy in those chakras through dance, through guided freeform dance. So it's pretty cool because dance and movement now comes into the work and it influences everything that I do, but it looked nothing like it did when I was a professional dancer. And so, to those of you listening to this, and, what I would say is like, pay attention to that and be open and curious as to what might be possible to bring these passions that you've had in your life into your daily life and into your work life or your business, if you have a business, and just trust, it doesn't have to look like it used to. But making sure that we're still honoring those pieces of ourselves that totally light us up and feel like those lifelines, and getting curious as to how we can kind of bring them in an unconventional way. So.
And I was always curious too, when we were working together, to notice my resistance to bringing that in. Like even at times noticing when you'd invite me to do something that lights me up, and I would resist making it a ritual for myself. I would resist, and I was curious about that for myself. And then what I'm hearing from you is, dance and movement influences your work because it helps you get to the base. It helps you get to kind of the inner core of who you are, so that then what you're offering and bringing out is from that space. That's awesome. Because
and also movement specifically in ritual. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it allows for you to embody movement. It allows you to open up the channel or the cells of the body,
right,
to actually be able to receive the information that's coming in. So when I create a day retreat, an evening retreat, like for instance, this Solstice Sisterhood retreat that's happening here on Thursday, has a very specific structure to it. And the way that we begin after we set intentions and we kind of cast the circle for creating a strong container for the group is I get them into their bodies. We take them through the strong body love method or movement experience and get them really opening up those channels to receive. Then we dive into the deeper inquiry pieces after that. And after that, right. So now they're not so identified in their head. They're more identified in their body, which allows for less of the overly thinking mind to take over. And the more of the knowing, the internal wisdom and knowing to take over instead.
Right.
And then what we do is we seal it in and we embody the teachings through ritual at the end. And at the retreats that you experience, at the end of the retreats, at the end of each day, typically we'd have some sort of ritual to seal in all the teachings, all the things that we did that day, and for you to embody it. So there's a method to the madness, really. And that's why. That's why we're doing it in that order, in that way.
Yeah, I love it. And you really seal it into your cells. Like you're creating a state change, because how we hold ourselves, how we hold our body creates certain states. And we actually probably have ones that we do frequently. So it creates a certain way of thinking and being. And like you're saying, we're in our brains. And then you get us moving in these different ways. I know from going to your stuff that once I would get moving and I get out of my own way, I open up, I light up. I'm available then for the seeds you're planting to sink in. And then, like inside your program, we would dive deeply into ritual and ceremony. And I'd love for you to share about like why, even on another level, like why do you feel that weaving that into your workshops or retreats is so important for creating that lasting transformation with the community,
So again, just to reiterate the piece that I just said is that the ritual allows for whatever you have been writing on your paper. It allows for it to become real. It allows for it to like infuse into the physiology of the body. So whether you're, teaching, like if you're at a retreat or a call or something and you're teaching content, the ritual allows for if the ritual is related in some way to that teaching content and that material, it's going to allow for the person learning that material to better integrate the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. It basically it's becoming tangible. Like just the conceptual pieces now become tangible because you're physically doing something or making something, or you're having an embodied experience
Mm-hmm.
to create these learnings to go into a deeper physiological space.
And
Yeah.
I've even noticed too, like in the retreats I've done with you and in the programs I've done with you, then getting together actually in a community and using my voice and like while moving. So like having this own internal experience where I get really in touch with, you know, what I'm connecting to, what I'm wanting to bring out, who I am, and then to stand up in front of a community of like-minded women, men, whoever, right? And to speak it and share it and move it
Yeah.
is really empowering. I mean, that plants it. That's like it's so cool, Ashley. It's really
So there's
beautiful work.
yeah, and it is. It's like it's uncovering that kind of like the hidden superpowers with it, you know. So there's the empowerment piece of it, of being witnessed
Oh,
within the context of other women who are on a similar path or
yeah.
journey that you're going through, and witnessing you also experiencing this ritual. Sometimes the rituals are like we're doing it all together and we're having a simultaneous experience with it. And sometimes it's like, you know, I'm asking you to all do something that then everyone's going to witness each person do by themselves and essentially get initiated
Yeah.
into a which is super, super potent and powerful.
Yeah.
Just to be witnessed, just to be seen and heard. And that's another reason why we do ritual too. And why I, you know, feel so strongly about circle.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I'm doing any sort of retreat, there's the teaching. It's not a teaching where I'm up front and the people are sitting in chairs behind. We are all in circle. We are all, you know, the same.
Mm-hmm.
No one's more important. No one's less important. And, you know, this is an opportunity for you to be vulnerably seen and heard and held and supported in a community of people who are going through similar, you know, things as you.
Yeah.
And then the last piece I'll say around ritual and ceremony and why it's so important. I mean, there's so much I could say about it, but is that you're creating a muscle memory of that experience. Like, again, you're creating a physiological memory imprint within yourself of that moment in time. Yeah. And doesn't matter if you are standing out here looking at the hills or if you're back home in Chicago. Mm-hmm. You get to step back into that experience as if it were happening right here, right now, again, and you get to come back into that empowered, embodied experience. And so because you've already done it. Yeah. You've already created it. It's already within you. And so that's what's so cool, is that, you know, through the rituals, we get to essentially step back into that space time and time again, and we can kind of call on it whenever we need it. Like if we're getting ready to deliver a big talk or something like that, I can step back into that experience.
Yeah.
And then it's just fun, you know. I mean, it sparks creativity, and it sparks our connection to the spiritual realms too, which I think many of us are just starved of. And I work a lot with earth-based ritual, so working with the earth, working with items that are from the earth, from this property to create the rituals with. Like, for instance, sometimes we'll do mandala making and the whole group, or we'll go hunting on the land for these pieces that then we create this beautiful mandala with, and it represents, you know, impermanence, because it's going to be gone by the end of this, you know, by the end of the evening or something like that. But again, it's all about that memory. It's all about connecting into our creativity and connecting into finding a deeper connection with our spiritual sides through working with the earth. because that's because we are embodied beings of the earth right now, so it's infusing the body, the mind, and the spirit, kind of all of it. Just all about mind, body, spirit squad, baby.
Yeah, baby. Well, and also the thing too is that in it you also embrace what comes up, right? So as someone is stepping out and in front of the community being witnessed or having their own personal experience and then bringing it forward with people who are like-minded, you get to all experience where you're shy about it, what you feel ashamed of or funny about exposing gets to be first held in a community that has shared values. And so it's good to watch like your own patterns and what you do and how you hide. Do you always go last? Do you go in the middle? Do you go first? Do you how are you about what you're wanting to bring? And because really, as you're in your offerings, connecting into that true core, what's the Hawaiian word again?
Pono.
Yeah. Coming from that space is so beautiful, but it's also going to be very raw and vulnerable. And so as you bring that forward, to watch what comes up and how you get triggered with that or who you are in that is also part of the education I found, and so powerful as well. So to have ritual where you're embodying, like you're saying, this very empowered state, so that when I'm at home by myself and I don't have those, 8 to 10 to 20 women around me to be like, yeah, boop, boop.
Yeah.
I can actually like re-enter the experience and feel that vibe. So that's been really cool. The program that I studied with you, and I'll tell everybody, is the Uninhibited Leadership Program. And I'd love for you to share with people what uninhibited leadership means to you.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have a lot on this property are a lot of turkeys. And right now it's spring and the turkeys, they're huge. They get so big when they poof up their feathers, it's really amazing. And then in the fall, and we have like 30 turkeys out here right now, like just hanging out and like, doing their little thing. And at night they go and roost in this big eucalyptus tree in the front yard. And in the fall they shed their feathers, And so, hang on, let me grab this really quick. So here's one of the feathers.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, this is a huge feather I just but basically these feathers fall off the tree, and when I think about uninhibited leadership, I think about this feather, and I think about uninhibited means like total freedom, like let your freak flag fly, be who you are. Don't hold yourself back for fear of judgment, this, that, and the other. So that's what the feathers represent to me. They're wild. They're a little unruly at times. They can get kind of crazy. And leadership to me is all about finding plumb line. It's like find your center, find your foundation. What is your foundation? What are you going to do before you wake up and do anything for anyone else? Find your center, find your ground. And we can't lead if we're just leading from this crazy, letting our freak flag fly kind of space, right? So it's this mergence of the two. And that's really what we're doing in this group is, in the work that I'm doing, is helping women to own the truth of who they are through their soul's work, letting people see that, letting the true colors come out, but finding center, finding foundation, finding the plumb line, not getting, fallen, over every single time that we come up with against a challenge in our business, that we can find center. That's what uninhibited leadership means to me. And that is the foundation of my work as a human being and as an entrepreneur and as a partner, is to, find foundation, but let my true colors be seen and heard, and to not hold that back, and that's my wish for everyone, that in our lives, that we can find, the strength and the power in our ground for foundation, but that we really get to be who we are. And if we want to be like wild, bare-breasted ladies, like, do it, but find your ground, find your foundation, find your center. Be aware of, maybe you're doing that only in the context of, a retreat where other bare-breasted crazy ladies are with you, and then you're keeping your ground in your center. So it's that's what it means to me, and this feather is just a real symbol of that for me.
Yeah, and that in that plumb line and in that groundedness, it allows you to also to check, like, as I'm letting my freak flag, fly, like, is that from a grounded place, or is that really me that is deciding to fly that way, or am I influenced by others? Like, really, if that plumb line's there, then whatever you're sharing is authentic. It's your truth and genuine. Where a lot of times people can, even be sharing information that like sounds awesome, but they're actually not even really connected to that space. So that's really cool. When we work together and in your work, you often talk about the queen archetype, so much so. And I wanted to touch base today a little bit on why you feel so strongly working with the archetype of the conscious queen, and how that affects creating confident leaders.
Yeah, so some people might get turned off by that. And other things that have come up actually for some people are like, what if I turn into the evil queen? Oh. Right. I've certainly had, I think, my own clients get triggered at times. I've gotten triggered at times. But I always come back to her, because I think this idea of what a queen is shifting. And the archetype of the conscious queen is totally different than the old version of what we think a queen is, or this kind of old model of the queen. So, when I talk about the conscious queen, it's like she, and I've got these kind of 11 lessons of the queen that I teach at some of my retreats. I, especially the Unleash retreat, that I help women kind of activating their power and their voice and stepping into their mission in a deeper way. We work a lot with this queen energy. And, one of these lessons, a couple of these lessons are like, she knows, she isn't afraid to take up space, because she knows that when she takes up space, that instead of taking anything away from anyone else, that in actuality, she's giving her mission to other women to do the same thing, to take up that space as well. And so she's not taking space up from the space of ego. Right. And like, look at how amazing I am, and look at how awesome I am. It's, I'm taking this space up because I care about my mission and my message and my big why and my purpose. And I know that if I don't take this space up, I'm doing a disservice for my community. And I also am like kind of also not acting as that inspiration for other women to be able to do the thing. And so we work a lot with that principle, or that lesson of coming back to like the mission, the message, the purpose, and understanding when we take up space, it gives other people permission to do the same thing. She also knows she's not perfect. She owns up to her mistakes. She embraces her imperfections, and she learns from the moments of challenge or the mistakes that she's made. She isn't afraid to be vulnerable and to be seen in that space, right? And let's see, what else do I have here? There's a lot of them. She feels the fear and does it anyway. She understands that fear is not going to go away for her. That fear is fear is part of the creative process, and that she sometimes needs that fear to kind of rev her up and to make creative fuel for her to get that mission and that message and that purpose out there. So, those are just 3 examples of working with the archetype. But I truly, when I've seen women working with this archetype at the retreats that we do, and again, embodying her through ritual and various practices. I know the retreats that you came to, we worked a lot with the Queen energy in the Queen archetype. And I mean, it is incredible when I see women come into a retreat and then when I see them leave after we've worked with this archetype. Can you still see me?
Yeah, you're good.
If someone tried to call at that point. And it's like night and day. It's just it's incredible.
The transformation seen in the physiology, people's eyes, the way they speak, the way that they walk. I mean, I watched it too at your retreats. It's astounding, and I think that I love what you shared too. It's not from this place of ego; it's from an authentic place of empowerment, like standing in their true power, so that they can share what their mission is, and at the same time inspire others to step into their own power. It's the coolest.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would love for you today, with our last little bit of time, to maybe give an experience of some of your work for the people listening today. Are you up for that?
Yeah. So, and I want to do this pretty simply.
Yeah.
But, again, playing with this idea of taking up space. And so if you're all willing, you can either sit or you can also stand. I'm not going to stand just so you can still see me.
Yeah.
But I probably would stand if I were going to do this exercise at home. Okay. But go ahead and just close your eyes and begin to elongate your breath. In and out through the nose, just smoothing the breath out. So again, you're finding your foundation through that breath. You're finding that plumb line through that breath. And beginning to feel your feet rooted down into the earth. If you're standing, you can even feel the feet almost sinking down into the earth like a big tree. If you're sitting, you can feel your sits bones on the earth and then your feet planted firmly down onto the earth. And begin to elongate your spine as if it were that plumb line and the feather. And this is an exercise you can use before, going out, giving a talk or having a meeting or having to have a difficult conversation with a family member. Anything that comes up, you can begin to utilize this practice. And so I want you to think about a time when you felt really confident, really in your center, in your ground. And to the best of your ability, think about a specific time where you felt really confident in yourself. And step forward, if you're standing, forward into that experience as if it were happening right here, right now. Go ahead and turn the dial up on that feeling. Make the picture brighter and more lifelike. Step into the fingers and toe slots of that version of you that feels most confident in your power. And as you're turning the dial up on this feeling, you're going to create a power pose. So opening up the arms into a big X position, flooding the body with testosterone, and even giving a little smile in that most confident version of yourself. Flooding the body with oxytocin. Make the picture brighter and more lifelike as if we're happening right here, right now, in that most confident version of you. Take one more deep breath into all the cells of the body and release. And if you're standing, you can step back out of the circle. And let's do that one more time. You can repeat this a number of times. But let's find another time when you felt most confident in your power, in your strength, in that queen energy, taking up space. And ask yourself if you can find a specific time, a specific memory. If you're standing, step forward into that experience right now. Make the picture brighter and more light. Slip the fingers and toe slots into the fingers and toe slots of that moment, as if it were happening right here, right now. And as if after this moment happens, it will always be true. It will always be true. Let's make the big power pose again. Little smile. Breathe that moment, that memory into your being right here, right now. Retain that information. Take one more deep breath in to all the cells of the body and release. Step back out of this circle. We like to call this your circle of power. And just take a moment to notice any shift, any physiological shift in your being. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, how was that for you?
Oh, that felt vibrant and alive and empowering. I feel centered and grounded at the same time. So there's this this cool engagement of energy, this zing at the same time being centered and grounded. So I love since you taught me that, utilizing that before, like you said, talks, difficult conversations, or even difficult moments with my own self, right? Where I'm in a moment with me where it's difficult and I go, wait,
self-doubt.
What if I have can I remember a moment when I felt confident? And even that doesn't mean that I'm no longer allowing the doubtful me to be there. It just lets me step into the more empowered self and then view that part of me with compassion and love and a little more awareness, and it helps me with resolving something or having those compassionate eyes versus being stuck in the other. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
yeah. I feel like this is such a powerful exercise to exactly, to help you to remember and come back into the fact that, wow, I've been in that memory before or that experience before of feeling confident and in my kind of queen energy. And what we're doing through the power posing, and Amy Cuddy has a really beautiful talk on, I think it's on Netflix. Yeah. I don't know if it's still there.
There's a TED Talk.
A TED Talk, yeah. On the science behind power posing, but you're actually flooding the body with testosterone, and also as we think of this experience of empowering experience that we've had in the past, and we kind of even invite a smile on our face from that, we're flooding the body with oxytocin, which can just slash out cortisol levels, and essentially will provide you with a more centered and grounded and confident state to then go in and have that that talk. The body is one of the most quickest shortcuts to move through fear, doubt, limiting beliefs. Yeah, we can also, I'm trained in neuro-linguistic programming, and we can repattern the brain to as well. But the body is it's like this, even quicker shortcut it can be, and it's like utilize the body, utilize the resources that you have within already in these vessels to move through some of that fear and doubt as well. And so I hope that's helpful. You can repeat that a number of times and step forward and backward in and out of the circle. And the last thing you could ask yourself is, you could literally turn around after you do that, look back at, once you've done it the last time, and you're actually still inside of the circle. So you stepped forward into the circle when you had that, you're invigorating that experience again. After you're done, turn around and look at that slightly younger version of yourself and ask yourself, ask the current self, what's the wisdom that you want to share with that slightly younger version of yourself? And it's just a moment of a remembering, I think, again, it's all already inside of us. We're just reactivating.
Totally. So what that more empowered you, what does it have to say and share with that other you, that's still all there. But, oh, Ashley, it's so cool. If those listening feel that it's time to take your leadership and your visibility and your heart-centered life and mission to the next level, I strongly advise you to reach out to Ashley. Her website's strongbodylove.com. Ashley, I think you have an offering. You have something coming up in September that you wanted to talk about. I'd love for you to share real quick about that.
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier. The Unleash Retreat is a 4-day retreat here in Sonoma County that it's all about actually learning how to hold really powerful space for your community as a teacher, leader, coach, whatever profession you're in, therapist, and anyone that thinks about teaching or holding events or leading women's circles or giving talks and being in front of people. It's focusing on how to really create strong and sacred space in which to do that, and also to unleash our voices. So we work a lot with the queen, the energy and the archetype of the queen. We look at how to create strong containers for, because I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to, events or classes like workshops and things like that, and there's no kind of cohesive process created, so I don't even feel safe enough to share with the people that are there. The techniques that we teach at Unleash is within the first 5 minutes of these women or people, men, whoever, coming into the space, is that they feel like they're home, and they're in your community, and they're feel like they're a part of it. And so we teach a lot of those pieces around how to create that kind of strong and sacred container. How to weave ritual and ceremony into the work in a non like super woo woo way, so that people, you know, can just have that embodied experience of it. And so that they're, you know, they create that muscle memory, a memorable experience at your event or your retreat or your workshop or how, you know, whatever you're creating, so that they are like, oh, I'm never going to forget that. And I'm going back to that next year or, you know, whatever. So, how to fill gatherings, how to call in your community, is another piece that we talk about. Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last piece that we talk about there is self-care, like self-care, radical self-care, and making sure that we learn how to energetically cleanse our bodies, our minds, our spirits before, during, and after our events, and our, you know, anytime we're teaching or leading, to avoid burnout and picking up other people's energy. And so that's another huge piece that comes into that. So it's happening at the beginning of, I think the second weekend in September, the weekend after Labor Day, and would be totally honored to have you, any of you that are watching, at that retreat. It's an incredible retreat, 4 days in Sonoma County. And I'm just honored to also offer your community here the first 5 that feel called $100 off.
Oh, awesome!
Participate in that retreat.
That's so generous.
Yeah. So yeah, you can go to strongbodylove.com. You can sign up for my newsletter there. You can also email me personally. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you about anything that came up today and just get to know you on a deeper level. So you can email me at ashley@strongbodylove.com, and or find out more information. I think, Court, you'll share more about the Unleash retreat with your community.
Yes, and inside of our website and everything, we have the information that they need in order to contact you about this offer and to check out the retreat and more information about you. And Ashley, I love you. You're amazing. Thank you for being such an inspiration in my life, and I'm stoked that this community got to meet you. Thank you so much for this time. I'm honored.
You're so welcome, and thank you so much for everyone who just kind of tuned in for this conversation, and would love to get to know you on a deeper level. And many blessings to you on your path and your journey, and sending lots of love.
Thank you.
Yay, Court.
Yay,
love you.
Love you.
Mind, body, spirit squad.
Woo!